There's no question. I told you a couple weeks ago, LaMelo Ball will never play for UCLA. So the only thing left to decide was, what do you do with Jello Ball? And of course, he pulled his own ripcord. And then his dad said he's going to prepare for the draft. I'm not sure if he's aware, but we have a volunteer army now. So if he's preparing for that, because he's not preparing for the NBA draft.
He's not an NBA player?
No. He might be an NFL football player. You know, LeVar became an NFL football player.
Yeah, I know.
No, but that's how LiAngelo was built. He's not built like the other two brothers, right? He's not long and rangy.
So let's tell our audience now. So there's Lonzo in the NBA.
There's Lonzo, who goes by Zoe. There's LiAngelo, who goes by Jello.
And he's right now at UCLA.
No, they just pulled him out of UCLA.
Okay, and then there's the other brother who's in high school.
LaMelo, who goes by Melo, who was in high school, and his dad pulled him out of high school.
Oh, boy.
And his dad's now homeschooling him, preparing him likely to go play some sort of pro basketball before he attempts to go to the NBA draft. And that's what LiAngelo's doing. Look, this is the greatest news for Steve Alford. Remember, if you dial back a year and a half ago, they had a disastrous season, finished below 500, and Lonzo Ball came in and completely resurrected the energy, got Steve Alford a contract extension. 2 seasons ago, it was so bad in Westwood, they were flying banners over the football practice.
Yes.
And Steve Alford actually gave back a year of his contract, said, hey, I've been good enough. Here's the last year of my contract. We'll void that year. Kind of betting on himself, knowing that he had his son back, knowing he had all these the incoming freshman Lonzo Ball back, and Lonzo Ball resurrected that program, and now he never had to coach LiAngelo, who wouldn't start, probably wouldn't play that much, and his dad would be a malcontent, and now Alford looks like the good guy, and he didn't want to deal with the LaMelo thing, no matter how talented LaMelo was anyway. Great day for UCLA basketball, because it also takes away from the fact that this year's team is just okay and next year's team should be spectacular. And you pointed out, I think you quoted some other people accurately, that they were struggling to recruit some future stars because nobody wanted to play with LaMelo Ball. So all of this is good news for UCLA. All of this is bad news for the Big Baller brand.
Yeah, it's basically a glamour T-shirt company now. That's what it is. Competing against Nike. Good luck. So last night, I didn't see it live, but it was terrifying. Like in my life, I've seen about 4 hits where they bring out a stretcher. It's only been about 4.
Yep.
Maybe 6. And I'm like, okay, so I didn't see it live, but I saw it on tape. And my takeaway was, oh, good God. And then the players didn't peel back. They doubled down. It was the most physical football game I've seen. I can't remember the last NFL game that was this physical.
I can. It was Steelers-Bengals playoffs 2 years ago. 2 years ago. So I can remember it, and that was Vontaze Burfict, a couple of nasty hits, and, of course, Vontaze Burfict got knocked out by Juju Smith, who I thought that was a clean but cheap hit that they're trying to take out of football.
So the announcers last night, I love John Gruden, but the announcers last night kept kind of apologizing for what you were watching. And I've got to be brutally honest here. I think football needs to stop apologizing. What is it, Tale of Two Cities? Was the best of times, was the worst of times? That's last night, okay? Twofold. One, the Steelers are as much America's team as the Cowboys are. Go to a Steelers game on the road, and there's an unbelievable amount of fandom. They're the only NFL fan base that travels like a college fan base.
Well, it's not just they travel. It's that, look, we love what we think the core values of the Steelers are, right?
Right.
Like, they're what we want to be. They've always, with exception maybe Antonio Brown, jettisoned guys who want the big contract with the idea in mind of they'll draft the next star.
Loyal.
Right. Plus, they've been good in the 70s, good in the 80s, good in the 90s, good in early 2000s, good in this, and when you're good, people like you. There's a lot of things. So everybody's watching last night. Everybody knew it was going to be a vicious rivalry. Here's the bad part. There isn't a parent out there. I mean, parents now, I'm one. My son's 8 years old. He wants to play tackle football. He's played flag for 2 years. And all we're concerned about is brain injuries.
Right.
We've forgotten the fact that these are the type of hits and the potential for paralysis that have caused mothers to never want to sign the permission slip.
That was a legal hit. By the way, Shazier was a legal hit.
Right. You pointed out he had
put his head down.
You're taught see what you hit, and he didn't see what he's hit, and that's the dangers of it. So the bad part is, man, if you're a parent, you got to think twice. And Shazier is a beloved football player, not just by Steelers fans, by any football fan.
Yeah.
Right? He's great, and he's a great guy. So you watch, you're like, man, I don't want to forget brain injury. My kid could be paralyzed. Right. On the other hand, why did we remember when the NHL tried to take fighting out of hockey?
Yeah.
Who watches, right? when NASCAR had the restrictor plates racing, so it takes some of the crashes out. We watch the NFL for these type of hits. Yeah. We watch the NFL for this type of rivalry. I'm sorry, it's not for the meek. It's not for the faint of heart.
Yeah.
But that was a great watch. Like, I wanted to see what was going to happen next.
Listen, the second half of that game, it felt like a 1988 football game. It was intense. And listen,
it's what we hoped Mayweather-Pacquiao would be, right? Two guys standing in the ring and just hitting each other. We didn't get it. That's what we root for in sports. A little bit of nasty. And yeah, it's dirty. And yeah, guys can get hurt. I'm not getting hurt. I'm simply watching it. I'm sorry. I actually liked it.
Yeah. So it's interesting. Doug, there's a certain psychology. Every time we think there's going to be a dynasty, it generally doesn't last as long as we think. We thought the Seahawks would last forever. And then the big three, and the Miami Heat, the big three. And like now the Warriors is they're going to win forever. My theory has always been dynasties are created by adding old players who break down more. Steph Curry is now hurt again, left the game in crutches. KD suddenly, I don't know what's going on above the shoulders.
Very surly.
He's been ejected 3 times.
Yeah.
My thing is they're going to get to the finals this year. They are. But, Doug, I don't think it's going to last forever. I think there's going to be, after another championship, a Clay issue, Steph's now had three injuries now, like serious.
Right. Well, his injuries are actually the reason they were able to create the dynasty to begin with, right? Because he was so oft injured his first couple of years, they were able to assign him to a 4-year, $44 million deal.
Yes.
Which allowed them to have the flexibility to go out and sign Kevin Durant. What brought down the Seattle Seahawks? Huge contracts, right? And huge contracts, egos, the fighting between the offense and the defense. I've heard you talk about Russell Wilson. I agree. He's a magician. He's amazing. But it's just like Aaron Rodgers last year. He'll get him to the playoffs, and then they just don't have enough dudes on defense now because of injuries. But the contracts combined with the injuries usually bring down dynasties, which brings you to, you mentioned the Clay issue. Look, the way to keep this dynasty going is to trade Klay Thompson to the Lakers at some point. Like, that is a distinct possibility. His dad was a Lakers. Dad's a longtime Laker broadcaster. He's from Southern California. Of course, he loves Luke Walton. Like, that would actually make sense, and that's the way to keep this dynasty going. Yes, injuries to Steph Curry and spraining his ankle, any Warrior fan, any basketball fan, you start to hold your breath like, oh, my gosh, here we go down that road again. But it's early December. They still aren't even playing great basketball yet. I still think they'll be fine this year, but I do think in order to extend the dynasty, it's no different than Cheers. Remember, they traded out Diane for Rebecca, right?
Right.
You can trade out one piece here or there and keep the dynasty going.
Doug Gottlieb is joining me. It is interesting about I am a believer. I do this to my kids. I said this once to my daughter. I said, one of you is gonna, in my will, I'll give most of it to charity because, I'm a giving guy. But I said, I don't want to make you rich and lazy. I said, but one of you is going to be the executor of the will, and it's going to be the one that has their life buttoned up. And I said, right now you've got a slight lead over Jackson. Just know Dad's keeping score. And I do that because the message is, I'm going to watch you, and your actions are going to create a certain standard. And I'm going to trust you as a father, or I'm not going to trust you. And so when Tom Brady screams and yells at people on the sideline, my thing is, play word association, disciplined,